Hello and welcome to the Real Estate Regroup Show. I am your host, LJ Walker, a real estate investor helping you realize your dreams of owning a home or investing in one. Today, I want to talk about ADUs. ADUs are accessible dwelling units. What they are is when someone takes their basement, attic, or if they even have a room on top of their garage, they'll take those places and turn them into an apartment by adding uh, a bathroom and also um, either some units so that they can cook with, such as a stove, a refrigerator, or a microwave. Um, what many people don't realize is that for most of the time, in many areas, including New York City, it was illegal to turn those areas into an apartment. Okay. But now, because of the fact that they say that the supply of housing has dwindled, many cities and many states have now began to accept them as being legal apartments. Okay, even though many people were actually doing this before it was made legal and they were making money that way. But what happened a lot of times, unfortunately, is you had what is known as professional tenants that knew the law and would take advantage. So, what they would do is they would find somebody who was renting out their apartment, renting out their attic, renting out the area on top of the garage, make an agreement with them, maybe paying a month or two, and then not paying anything else for the rest of the year. When the landlord, homeowner, took that person to court to recoup the expenses, they would turn around and say, well, that was an illegal apartment. It's the basement, so I shouldn't have to pay them anyway. And a lot of times, the courts would oblige. They may tell the person to move, but they would also turn around and say, well, since the apartment is illegal, they don't have to pay you. Then there was another thing that actually happened in New York that many people did not know of, and that's this. Let's say you had a homeowner, and the homeowner was the one that was living in the basement, living in the attic. Did you know that the courts also considered that illegal and would say to the tenant that because one of the apartments in the building is illegal, that nobody actually had to pay rent? Very few people knew about that. Unfortunately, I had that experience with someone that I knew that had to go to court in order to get rid of this particular person. They did not have to, of course, pay all the quote unquote back rent just because he, the owner, is the one that actually lived in the basement, not the tenant. So, um, thankfully, they have realized that that law was actually unfair and have decided that, you know what, yes, it is uh, okay to make those extra spaces in a person's property an accessible dwelling unit. You also, in addition to basements, attics, and the areas above the garage, there are some people who will build what is known as a mother-in-law suite, which is like a tiny building, sort of a little bigger than a she shed, of course, um, in their backyard, or they'll attach it to the house. That's also known, by the way, as an accessible dwelling unit. That one actually has never been illegal from the knowledge that I have on this. So, what are the benefits to this besides the fact that you will not have professional tenants taking advantage of you? Is the fact that you can now, it'll make it easier for you to qualify for a house because those extra areas of the house will be tacked on to your income when you're qualifying for a mortgage. Normally, you only get that added income when it's a multifamily. But now, if it's a single family that has a finished basement or has an attic or the area on top of the garage, you can now, the mortgage loan processors will now see that as added income. You can also turn around and sell the house for a much higher price than other people in your area who have, let's say, the same or similar house as you, but have not converted their basements or attics into apartments. Okay? So that's another benefit that you will have if you put in an ADU in your building. And also, please note, it doesn't necessarily have to be single family. Let's say you have, because I have a multifamily and I have a finished basement. If I wanted to, I can turn this finished basement into an ADU as well. So instead of just having 3 apartments, I would actually have 4. Okay? So, why also are they doing this? Well, besides the fact that there is a housing supply shortage, besides also the fact that we are still on our ways out of a pandemic, many of the materials, we're not sure if they're infected. Plus, many of the materials used to build a home have gotten quite expensive. So there's really not that many people who want to flip or rehab houses as there once was before, prior to the pandemic, prior to the cost of materials going up so high. There's also, even with what is being built, there's not that many that are affordable. Okay, so that's another reason why many cities are considering or have already made it legal for ADUs to be available. Okay, and what many people really don't realize, you may say, well, there was a pandemic and many people left New York because it was too expensive, too cold, plus they were hit with the pandemic the most. Believe it or not, even during the pandemic, even though prices on rents and also on homes went down, they didn't go down low enough. It was still higher than many other places around the United States of America. In addition to that, many of the people who left New York, I am seeing many of them come back. Why? Because many of the amenities that New York City has is not available in other places, or if it is available, it's limited. One of the main things is Wi-Fi. Since many jobs have said you can work from home now, what happens is Wi-Fi is now a priority, more so than it ever was before. So that is an additional reason why New York still is remaining to be very competitive. And as a matter of fact, now that so many New Yorkers have actually been vaccinated, competition is increasing. Home prices are really going up, and so is the rent. Even though many landlords did suffer from the moratorium, this is also making ADUs legal, is giving them a little bit of a foothold as far as giving the small landlords a chance to recuperate their losses. Okay, and now that more people are moving back into the city, it's also created a larger pool of people in which they can choose from once they get rid of, if they have a tenant, that's there that decides that they're not paying rent. Because, as mentioned before, the moratorium, the federal moratorium, has ended on May 5th of 2021. Okay? So, guys, I hope this information that I've just shared will help you make smart financial moves. Remember, feel free to pass this along, share this with your friends, because each one, reach one, teach one. Bye for now. Until next time, have a good night.